Okay, hello everyone. I'm Stephen Jones, and I've been asked to think about for the Dolydd Gobaith project to spend some time thinking about education, learning, I guess, looking at landscape rediversification, landscape repair, um, and what how we might approach that, and we want to invite people to become involved in a really wonderful thing. Okay, so let me start again. This is an invitation to be part of a really fantastic project, to bring some hope into your life and positivity in a beautiful place. And I've been asked by the Dolydd Gobaith Trust Community Interest Company to think about the sort of the to communicate more about what's going on there and what it's all about. So here I am, and I want to put it in a reference. I want to put it in a framework so that we can feel like we're on the same page, understand why we're doing this, what the vision is, and how you might engage with it. So here we are, Dolydd Gobaith. It translates as Meadows of Hope, and it's 40 acres of Welsh upland, looking out over the Tanat Valley in mid Wales. It's quite steep. It's being allowed to recover from many intensive grazing over a long period of time, and to widen the hedgerows, to plant up the corners of the field, trap a bit more water into the landscape, allow some wetlands to develop, more habitat for birds, and opportunities for people to interact with the place. And I think this is a wonderful vision. I thought about the name Dolydd Gobaith, Meadows of Hope, and me being me, my mind turned to Stairway to Heaven, Led Zeppelin. That very, very famous live rendition of it, Madison Square Gardens, 1973, I do believe, represented in the film. The song remains the same. Robert Plant begins by saying, "This is a song of hope." And that song did carry the hopes of a whole generation with it, actually, and it was like a positive statement. So that was what it made me think about. I wanted to wonder what it makes you think about, and I think as a theme within a project like a conservation, land habitat rebuilding project is about hope. So it's something positive, and that's what it meant to me. But I wanted to put it out and ask what that might mean to you. Now, I'm going to frame this little talk with this graph, and just very quickly, this is a representation of the targets of the Paris Climate Agreement. This is the path to net zero that we are obliged, committed to fulfill. Now, however we might feel about this, whatever we might understand about it, this is the best that the scientists talking to the politicians, this is the best that they can offer us. Science would like us to do this much quicker. So let's just, very quickly, let me just say is, the red line is the total global greenhouse emissions, carbon dioxide in billion tons per year. So the road that we're on over 30 years, this journey from 2020 to 2050, is to get it to zero. So we're going to halve it this decade, halve it next decade, halve it again. Okay, that doesn't quite get you to zero, that gets you to 5. And the negotiation was that, we can't eradicate all of our emissions. There's going to be some residual ones, but we can negate that with technology, with CO2 removal, carbon capture and storage. Well, for a long time, it's been argued that technology can help solve this problem. So that's the target. It's 5 billion tons a year over the next 30 years. And the final thing, and the thing that actually sets us on a path towards repairing the atmosphere, is this grey line, which is farming and land management. And farming is a source of at least 5 gigatons of that 40 currently, and it has to move to be 0 and then ultimately negative. So that line sets what's going to happen to landscape in the future. Okay, so that it's going to have to be designed, used, managed to trap a lot more carbon. It's going to affect how we farm and how we manage uplands and all sorts. So that's a background picture. And what I wanted also to bring into this into this dialogue around why we're doing what we're doing at the Dolydd Gobaith project, which is Penargarneth, top of the Tanat Valley, Llanrydder, just above the village of Llanrydder Mocknant. But here is a presentation that was given by Dr Judith Thornton a couple of years at the Wales Food and Farming Conference, and it looks at how, if landscape, this critical 5 gigaton switch of emissions from landscape is going to be so critical to the fulfilling the Paris agreements, then what's that going to do to landscape? Well, let's have a look. This is what Dr Judith Thornton has set out from her work within Aberystwyth University and in agriculture department. So this net zero society, the community economy that we are locked into and we need to achieve as quickly as we can, is going to mean that we're going to have to decarbonize electricity production. So in other words, no more gas, certainly no coal. We've got to find clean ways to produce electricity. So that's going to be wind, solar, hydro, etc. And there's going to be a massive increase in electrical demand. The reality is, if we think we're going to be heating our houses with electricity, and driving around electric cars, the price of electricity is really high currently. So going to be huge challenges there. But anyway, that's the reality. We're being pushed to clean energy. It's electric. That's what it says here. We're also going to have to be. There's going to be this carbon sequestration. We need to offset the hard to decarbonize sectors, and we're going to have to come up with a whole new range of products and services which aren't made out of fossil fuels, aren't made out of plastics and the synthetic materials that we've become so used to. So big challenges. What Dr. Thornton says is, in a world without fossil fuel, it means that farming provides everything. Just about, so everything's got to be grown. So, food, of course, ecosystems, services, that means clean air and water. That means maintaining, the atmosphere that we need, and to do that by power of sun and gravity. A lot of our energy is going to have to come from biomass and from energy installations, and we're going to be trying to stack away as much carbon as we can back into the soil, and the feedstocks for making new next generation products are also going to be growing. So we're going to see innovation, investment, involvement, change in our landscape, and of course it's also going to be stressed by climate forcing. So this is how we achieve our share of that target of carbon sequestration, according to this. This is the greenhouse gas resource policy options for 2019. So they've been looking at this within that framework of the Paris Accord. and started 2015, and so here we are, our target for 2050. So some of the ways we're going to remove carbon from the carbon cycle is build more things out of wood. So, and that wood that's in construction is locked out of the carbon cycle for as long as that building stands. We can grow timber potentially in a sustainable carbon sequestrating way, and then also then use that wood, utilize that wood, and not just wood, any kind of biomass really in construction. So changing how we manage soils gives us opportunity to sequestrate carbon in soils. Actually, from the colour key, I can't see which is which, but we get a sense of it. There is the carbon capture and storage through biological means, and carbon capture and storage through I looked that one up. I forgot what it means, but this is using industrial processes to lock carbon away. The yellow line is reforestation, habitat restoration, making biochar, something I'm very interested in, and enhanced weathering. I have no idea what that is, but let's just say these patterns, these generalities are going to tell us how to the change of how we're going to manage our landscape. So just notice that within that, ecosystem services, habitat restoration, making biochar, reforestation, and being key components, those things. And I picked those ones up clearly because that's what we're doing at Dolydd Gobaith. Those are the considerations. And it looks like the UK will be importing a lot of that biomass, but obviously increasingly we'll be trying to produce some of that ourselves. What do we mean by that? Well, it might look like miscanthus and willows as biomass crops. So 10% of agricultural land to be perennial biomass crops. This is what the report says. So I guess that's our transition up to 2050. We're going to do a lot more of this kind of stuff. And we're going to be then using these biomass crops to fabricate future housing and all the products, all our stuff. Okay, so we can imagine, here's our Welsh uplands. Maybe it's not going to look so different from this. We're going to carry on. I guess you've got some intensive farming still on the the flatter, easier areas to use, but at least a 10% reforestation we talked about, and thinking about sort of enhanced ecosystem services, which means stopping flooding. Okay, so that's what Aberystwyth University thinks we should be thinking about, and giving us a context or a framework for what we're doing. So within that, okay, what are we hoping for? What's this? How do we communicate hope? And here's Dolydd Gobaith, and I just thought, well, this is a beautiful place. It's a quiet place of tranquility. Well, it's quite windy sometimes, but you're in nature. Birds, wildlife coming back. We're seeing the landscape waking up, coming back to life. What a place to come and think, maybe to have meetings, to convene with yourself or with loved ones. There's a car park, the place is open, you can just come in and find your way down. There's maps and signs to find your way around the site. So for the people behind this project, they wanted to create a legacy, and they were thinking, what are we leaving for future generations? And in a small way, but in a tangible way, can we set something in motion that can contribute to that? And I thought that's really lovely. And I thought about the being sat there in the Welsh Highlands with the source of many little tributaries, little rivers and streams that become the rivers that feed the Severn and the Wye, and the great rivers of our country. And so up in these hills, we're kind of guardians of that source of water. It needs to leave here clean. It needs to leave here the ecosystem services. We need to do the best we can to return to allow the water draining from our valleys to be as clean as possible, to nourish the rest of the system. I thought about how water actually links us all together, and it's the medium through which life happens. Gosh, Greta Thunberg, the obviously of climate campaigner, is talking increasingly about hope is something that we create through action. Because I think a lot of young people feel helpless. They feel it's this enormous problem. We've been told about this crushingly depressing problem about the climate. It feels like the governments aren't doing anything. It feels like society isn't taking it serious enough. On the one hand, we've been told it's existential threat, and on the other hand, people seem to be dragging their feet. So that's a disconnect, and for many people, that's a source of a huge amount of anxiety. And I think so. The only way that we can address that is through action. Look at all this scary data that makes me feel helpless. We need to take part in something, don't we? So can we project a positive message? And can we create a message that can help change the world and change the world by changing ourselves and by releasing our own energy around this theme of hope, around thinking about how water connects us together. So yeah, I've had the pleasure of visiting at Dolydd Gobaith, and I've met the team. It's a wonderful place. I invite you to come and have a visit and explore it for yourself, and ask can we put out a slightly different message into the world. Just come back to this idea: hope is something that we create through action, and that the through the Dolydd Gobaith project, they've created something that people can come together and feel that. Hope is not something that you have. Hope is something you create with actions. Hope is contagious. Other people start acting in a way that has more hope, we are told. So, ideas into action. Okay, this what can you find around you? I think that's all I can say is, join with us, come and visit come to the Dolydd Gobaith. There's actually other really special things to see in this area, as well, if you are considering traveling. But ideas, I think, that bring people together might be around food growing, it might be around belief, it might be around actions. We created a community orchard in Llywelyn. We're interested in housing cooperatives and food co-ops and education around these themes, obviously supporting promoting clean energy. And personally, I'm really interested in soil building and food growing and again, ecosystem services. All of these things kind of fit together, and there's lots of ways in. And I think I'm trying to have a brainstorm, perhaps with myself, but that might be something that you want to do. You might want to do that with your own group, with your local group. Think about what inspiration, can you turn your ideas and hopes into action, and what inspiration might you have for regeneration, and can we, start to project a positive story, a picture, and sort of come together around on these themes. So think about what gives you hope. What's your call to action? Are there achievements we can celebrate? Tell me about your crazy world-saving ideas. Come and visit us in the Meadows in the Tanat Valley. There's tree planting. There's all sorts of different volunteering activities, and really we're just beginning on this journey. There's plenty more, long way to go. But the basic facilities are getting in place: meeting places and car park and compost toilets, and already volunteer teams having a positive experience. orchard development, yeah, loads of tree planting. But there's animals, there's horses and cattle you can interact with, and really steep hillside, which is fun to explore. Um, it's full of beautiful trees, wildlife is returning. It really does give hope. Obviously, we're trying to feel connected to the people around us, RSPB, Montgomeryshire Wildlife Trust, we have Arts Connection in Llangollen. There's lots of really interesting things we want to link to. Local groups, we're part of the St. Asaph Diocese. Within that, we have Tanat Valley, just also in the Tanat Valley. It's a beautiful church and retreat there. Dedicated to Melangeth, the Celtic patron saint of nature. So how appropriate is that? We have our own local climate response group in Llangollen, which we call Brace. As many other groups that to be reached out to and connected to. And I think that we need to somehow share inspiration, generate hope, and transfer through action. And this is what nature does. Left to its own devices, it grows back. This is a regeneration project in, I think, Scotland, where just grazing animals are being excluded or managed differently, and the landscape comes back. Here's a landscape that's been where obviously been devastating fires, and the only part that survived is the region area which has been managed by beavers. So think about regeneration. And nature just wants to come back. What we have to do is to create the right conditions, and with that we can build in things that give us yields and that feed us and become productive. So there we go. Welcome. This is Dolydd Gobaith. I'm going to be putting together a few more short educational videos to think about this process of natural regeneration, how nature can heal and build itself, and invite you to come and take part. Thank you very much.